who doesn't seem to let failures get them down, who doesn't give up and bounces back with even more energy than they had before, that person is probably someone who has a lot of resilience, which is a characteristic Heather Wiley is going to sit down with us to talk about. Heather teaches sociology at Shasta College and is part of the New World of Work team and is going to explain the 4 primary traits of resilience. Sets priorities and goals, can see possible outcomes and actions to take, and creates backup plans. Bounces back when things go wrong by figuring out what happened and how to learn from it. Takes feedback and deals directly with conflict and is able to both listen to others and speak up for oneself. Knows that personal growth and building skills need to be a way of life. We'll also be talking with Laura and Roxy about how they've been able to continue pursuing their goals, even in the face of failure. Heather, what is the first trait of resilience?
Setting priorities and goals, being able to see possible outcomes to actions, and creating backup plans.
I thought resilience was about how you reacted to a difficult situation, but everything you just said sounds like it's more about how you prepare before you even find out if you achieve your goal or not.
That's exactly right. Part of being resilient is being prepared. Preparation means having the tools to be able to bounce back from unexpected situations or things you didn't plan for.
Laura, in your experience, do you find that to be true?
Yes, definitely. I'm a lifeguard. I've been guarding for a while, and something at the pool that I work at is we prefer to keep the steps clear. That way people can get into and out of the pool easily. And a lot of times people sit on those steps, and so when I approach someone, I have kind of a plan A and a plan B. Plan A is, excuse me, could you mind not sitting on the steps? We need it for people to get into and out of the pool, and it's kind of an accessibility issue. And then plan B, if I meet resistance, is, okay, that's fine, you can stay there for now, but just make sure you're aware of your surroundings, and anytime someone needs to use the steps, you move so that they can use them.
And have you ever had to use plan B?
Yes, for sure. Sometimes when I approach people, they respond with something like, I have really bad knees and I need to sit for a while, or I'm just stretching after my workout, I'll only be here for a minute or two. And then I've found that if I'm responsive to what people are giving me and I'm able to adjust, that people are much more cooperative.
Yeah, even if you don't end up needing your backup plan, just having those options can make it so much less stressful and so much easier for really everyone.
Yeah.
Imagine you have an idea for a new product that the company you work for could sell. Your goal is to put together a presentation about your product that will really impress your boss. However, in order to make this presentation work, you have to do some research on the market, and you also have to work with a graphic designer to come up with some ideas for the presentation. Can you think of anything that could keep you from achieving your goal? Make a list of a few obstacles that could present themselves while you're working on this presentation. Then, come up with at least one backup plan for each problematic situation. Heather, what is the second trait of resilience?
Bouncing back when things go wrong by figuring out what happened and how to learn from it.
How would someone who wasn't resilient react when something goes wrong?
Yeah, a non-resilient person would probably try to forget about the mistake and not learn from it. And they'd also not figure out what went wrong, so risk making the same mistake again. And really, a non-resilient person's probably just going to give up. And that's really the definition of failure.
And Roxy, do you have any experience needing to use this trait of resilience at work?
Yes, definitely. I have a recent experience at my job at the buffet. I was working, cleaning up the counters, greeting customers, and all of a sudden my crew manager approached me and he took me to the back and he basically told me that I'm moving a little bit too slow and I need to multitask better. And listening to him, I was confused. I thought that I was doing a good job in the workplace. You know, it was my first job. My family saw me working before at the buffet and they thought I was doing a great job. So I needed some time to think about my performance and what specifically I was doing wrong and how I can push myself to do better for the next time. But looking back on this experience, I realized that going into any job or any performance, anything, you need to really come prepared and know what you can do to have this great 100% performance on the floor in the workplace.
Yeah, I think you handled that really well, Roxy. A lot of people would have seen that criticism as failure and maybe just given up. But instead, you showed a lot of resilience in recognizing it. Oh, this is an opportunity for me to really grow and learn. So well done.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel more prepared now for the next experience.
And it's great because it sounds like using this trait of resilience that people are able to reframe failure into something that's actually positive.
Absolutely. A resilient person recognizes failure as an opportunity to really grow and learn versus someone who's not resilient is going to see that as kind of the end of the line and potentially quit. So being resilient really is recognizing failure, which happens to all of us, as really opportunities to keep moving forward.
Now think of a time in your past where you were able to learn something from an experience that didn't go the way that you were hoping it would. How did that new knowledge help you in the future? Find a partner and exchange stories about your demonstration of this trait of resilience. Remember that a lot of job interviews will include a question such as, what did you learn after failure? So thinking about it now will help you prepare for your future interviews. Heather, what is the third trait of resilience?
Taking feedback and dealing directly with conflict, and being able to both listen to others and speak up for oneself.
And how do those characteristics connect directly to resilience?
It can be difficult to listen to others, but also have your voice heard, especially when it leads to a situation in conflict. I mean, nobody feels comfortable when there's a disagreement. But being resilient is being able to have your voice be heard while you're listening to others in a way that really gets the task accomplished instead of ending up in a disagreement.
Laura, have you had to use that particular trait of resilience at work?
Yes. At my lifeguarding job, I remember there was one woman who came in for lap swimming that I had never met before. And at first, she was complaining because the people she was sharing her lap lane with were too slow, and it was interrupting her workout. So I'm like, okay. So I made some adjustments, got people in different lanes, and then she was complaining again because the people she was sharing her lane with were too fast and they were passing her too much and she felt unsafe. And I was kind of like, I just feel like you're just never happy. And she came back at me with well, I've been swimming at this pool since before you were born. I've never had this many problems. You are the only lifeguard that I have problems with. I'm like, great, thanks. So she left, and then when she came back a couple days later, the conversation turned into, well, last time I was here, you said this. And I'm like, I did not say that. Last time you were here, you said this. And she's like, that's not what I said. And so at this point, I said, you know what? It sounds to me like we are not listening to each other. And she said, yeah, we're not listening to each other. And it was amazing because after that conversation, I haven't had any problems with her. We were able to really listen to what each other was saying and find solutions to problems that worked for both of us.
It's really great you were able to stay in that conversation long enough to find a solution.
Yeah, it would have been nice to leave, but it's my job to deal with conflict,
And you
so
did.
I couldn't.
And you did a great job. You did a great job. What do you think would have happened if you hadn't been able to find a solution?
I think that it would have been a lot more exhausting if we hadn't taken the time to find a solution, because you can't have somebody who's coming to the pool day after day and always have a conflict with them. That would be exhausting for me, it would be exhausting for her. And so we needed to find a solution that worked for both of us, because that sort of conflict isn't really sustainable and it's not really healthy for a work environment.
Yeah, this is such a great example of using resilience to accomplish a task where both that person was heard, but your voice was important too. Great job.
Thanks.
Now break up into groups of 3 or 4. Imagine that you're all on an events committee at your school and your group is in charge of hiring someone to give a speech at an awards banquet. The speech is supposed to be about the value of education. Who would you pick to give the speech? Let each member of the group take a turn explaining clearly why their speaker is the best choice. When you're not talking, listen carefully to your team members. Now, can you come up with a choice that everyone agrees on? Heather, what is the 4th trait of resilience?
Knowing that personal growth and building skills need to be a way of life.
Well, aren't there some things about a person that they can't change, some things that are fixed?
Yeah, there's this sense that intelligence or talents is somehow fixed, that you're either born with it or you're not. But the reality is most skills can be learned, and really with practice, your skills, your expertise can grow.
And how does practice tie into resilience?
Great question. So resilience takes practice. It requires sticking with something like learning a second language or an instrument long enough to be good at it. And resilient people stick with it long enough to grow from it.
And Roxy, do you have any experience needing to use practice and resilience?
From my personal work experience, I've learned that punctuality is key. That's very vital to any job or anything that you do, or performance, etc. And it's something that I've struggled with, and I am still definitely learning. And it takes time and it takes practice, and you really have to train yourself to be where you need to be, to wake up and be where you need to be at that time that you're supposed to be there, and just be there in general. Whether you have to set a couple of alarms, which I have, or learn not to do so many tasks and activities the week before that'll really make you so tired that you can't perform your everyday tasks. That's important. You really need to train yourself to do these things, and anybody can, as long as they put their heart and mind to it, and they can.
That's really a great attitude, and I like that you said it takes, your heart and mind, but also your time, because you were prioritizing it, and it seems like you definitely learned that new skill. Make a list of at least 10 skills you'd like to acquire over the course of your life. Now, draw a timeline for yourself and think about when it would be reasonable to achieve each of your skills. Ask yourself questions like, how much time will I have to devote to learning this new idea? How long will it take? Do any skills build upon other skills? And when in my life will I need to use this skill? The answers should help you figure out when you would like to achieve each of these goals. When you're done, you'll have a visual document reflecting that seeking out new skills can be a lifelong proposition.